During my time as an Uber driver, I encountered all sorts of people. There were fun groups, those who tried to trick me for free rides, and sometimes people who were just plain odd. But none were as unsettling as the passenger I picked up one cold December night, a man who introduced himself as Tom. I had decided to make some extra money by driving late at night. I was just 18, driving a brand new Honda Accord, a gift from my parents. As a skinny teenager, my dad always worried about my safety. He insisted I keep a small blade in my car, just in case I ran into trouble. Looking back, I'm grateful for his advice. That night, my Uber app pinged with a request from Tom. The pickup location was a busy shopping area, a couple of miles away. When I arrived, I noticed a group of teenagers loitering around, giving me uneasy glances. Hoping Tom wasn't a part of that crowd, I slowly drove past them, eventually circling back to the more deserted parts of the parking lot. Suddenly, I saw someone in my rearview mirror working towards my car. Rolling down the window, I called out, "Tom?" and he responded affirmatively. I repeated myself as a few times, telling him to hop in, but he seemed to struggle with understanding me. His slow, almost dazed reaction was the first red flag. When Tom finally got into the car, sitting directly behind me, I got a better look at him. He was older, probably in his late 40s, and had a hoarse voice that betrayed his heavy smoking habit. I could already smell the cigarette odor on him. I asked where he was headed, and he gave me an address, which I promptly entered into my GPS. Initially, I tried making small talk, but Tom's responses were either mumbled or non-existent. I felt a growing discomfort, especially when he ignored my questions entirely. As we drove further, my unease deepened. I didn't like passengers sitting right behind me. It made me paranoid, especially when they were as odd as Tom. Halfway through the journey, the silence in the car grew oppressive. I dared not look in the rear-view mirror, but I could sense Tom's gaze on me. By now, we were driving through a desolate area, surrounded by woods and the occasional empty building. My heart started to race as I realized just how isolated we were. Checking the map, I saw that Tom's destination was a dead-end street in the middle of nowhere. Alarm bells were ringing in my head. Why would anyone want to go there so late at night? I decided to trust my instincts. Pretending to miss the turn, I continued driving, hoping he wouldn't notice. But Tom was quick to react, demanding I turn around. His tone was sharp, and I felt a surge of fear. I complied, turning the car towards the dead-end street. As I approached, my hands tightened around the steering wheel, preparing for the worst. The road was dark, flanked by trees with no houses in sight. I sensed Tom moving behind me, and my heart pounded, waiting to see what was going to happen. Suddenly, he asked me to step out of the car to help him with a bag, claiming he had a bad back, but I knew he hadn't brought any bag with him. My suspicion confirmed. I nervously agreed, pretending to comply. As I reached for the door, I felt a sudden pressure on my neck. Tom was choking me from behind. Reacting instinctively, I grabbed the blade my dad had insisted I keep and defended myself. Tom screamed in pain and stumbled out of the car. Seizing the moment, I turned the car around and sped away, not stopping until I reached a well-lit, populated area. I didn't call the police. I was too shaken, just wanting to forget their entire incident. That night changed me. I couldn't bring myself to drive for Uber again. The memory of Tom's eerie presence and the chilling encounter on that deserted road haunted me, serving as a stark reminder of the unpredictable dangers one can face in the most ordinary circumstances. Story number 2. In 2019, I found myself in a tricky situation. I had made a mistake while driving that I regretted, which meant I wasn't allowed to drive my car for a whole year. During this time, I often used an app called Uber to get around. This app was really helpful, especially when me and my friends were going to the local club. One night, after hanging out at this place, I started feeling unwell. I knew it was time to get going and head home. It was really late, probably around 1 or 2 in the morning, and it was freezing outside. I left the club. Walking home in that cold wasn't a good idea, so I decided to call an Uber. A driver named Alex agreed to pick me up. His profile picture on the app made me a little nervous though. He was older, with a gray beard and wore a black hat. He didn't have a friendly smile, which made me feel uneasy, but I needed a ride, so I waited for him. Alex's car, a Chevy Malibu, sounded like it would be nice. However, when he arrived, the car was not what it seemed. It was quite old and looked like it had seen better days. I hesitated for a moment, but then decided to get in, hoping to get home quickly and safely. As I settled into the back seat of the car, I noticed Alex's behavior was a bit strange. He didn't even greet me or look at me. He just asked in a quiet voice where I was going. I gave him my address, but instead of heading towards my home, he drove in the opposite direction. I reminded him of where I needed to go, but he just said he had to make a quick stop and promised a discount. This was when I started to feel really worried and I knew something was up. Things got scarier when I noticed a handgun next to Alex in the front of the car. My heart started racing at this point. I knew I had to get out of there, but I had to be smart about it. I tried to open the door quietly, but it was locked with a child lock. I was trapped inside. I needed to find a way to unlock the door without Alex noticing. So at the next red light, I slowly and carefully reached forward, trying to hit the unlock button. Alex saw this though, and got really scared. He yelled at me and started reaching for the gun. In that terrifying moment, with my heart pounding, I managed to unlock the door. I opened it and ran out as fast as I could. I found a big car nearby and begged the people inside to help, but they drove away, leaving me alone. Thankfully, Alex didn't chase after me. I ran into a store that was open all night and called a taxi from there. The ride home in the taxi was quiet. I wasn't feeling unwell anymore. I was just scared, thinking about what had just happened. When I got home though, I reported the incident to Uber, and they said they would tell the police about Alex. A week later, police came to my house and asked me some questions about that night. It turned out that Alex had been on the run from the police for years. I never found out what happened to him though after that. I was too scared to use Uber again. This experience was one of the scariest things in my life. It made me think a lot about being safe and careful, especially when getting rides from people I don't know well. It was a night that I will never forget. A reminder that sometimes we can find ourselves in dangerous situations when we least expect it. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night, Merry Christmas, and Happy fucking New Year's.